What did you say in the notes here?
Dems getting demolished.
Dems getting demolished.
So we'll start. We'll start off with the first one, which is actually more interesting.
Yeah.
So it came out yesterday that Robert Hur, who was actually a part of the Department of Justice,
Special counsel.
Yeah,
Ooh.
explicitly stepped down so that he could testify against President Joe Biden as a private citizen. Because apparently, if you work for the Department of Justice, you're not allowed to speak against the president. That's a problem. But he specifically stepped down in order to break the news that he has identified President Biden willfully retained classified materials after the end of his vice presidency.
So before you play that, can you just, that piece right there, what you just said, that you couldn't speak while being in the role.
I'm assuming, I don't
Okay.
know that's explicitly, but why else would he step down?
Never build your business in such a way, please.
My team and I conducted a thorough, independent investigation. We identified evidence that the president willfully retained classified materials after the end of his vice presidency when he was a private citizen. This evidence included an audio-recorded conversation during which Mr. Biden told his ghostwriter that he had, quote, just found all the classified stuff downstairs, end quote. When Mr. Biden said this, he was a private citizen speaking to his ghostwriter in his private rental home in Virginia. My team and I conducted a thorough, independent...
So it says former special counsel because he stepped down, but
Benny Johnson there on the post.
yeah, people are the tide is starting to turn against we were talking about it yesterday when we were talking about ESPN.
Right.
Like they're defecting. Like we can't just continue to sit here and say what you want us to say and pretend like this stuff isn't actually happening or that it's acceptable or not ridiculous. And so I thought that was an interesting move for, Robert Hur to just step down the day before he's going to go testify so that he could testify as a private citizen.
Facts. Let's go to Letitia
Oh,
James.
this might be my favorite one.
Letitia James. So she's the New York Attorney General who's obviously been on center stage with everything going on with Trump.
Because of what? Because of what? Just explain it for the audience.
In terms of who she is?
Yeah, what has she been doing as in her role?
I mean, just putting it frankly, she's been on a Trump crusade. She's been trying to take down everything related with the name Trump. So I don't know much about her professional career and her accomplishments, but I can just tell you that she said some questionable things in the past, stating her intentions before she was in a position to even do so with getting Trump. And she sought to fulfill those promises that she was going to take him down. So
she's speaking at the New York City Fire Department ceremony.
Yeah.
And this is the response that the crowd gave her.
She's smirking.
We're in a house of God.
And she's getting booed. Yeah, that's it.
First,
keep going.
simmer down. I want to thank Commissioner Kavanaugh and Chief Hodgins
Now they're yelling Trump.
for that recognition.
See, so her own, and you can pause it. Her own employees, i.e., the people that work for the city, do not like her, and they are vehemently against her and what she stands for and her party.
Right. See, this is the thing dude, this is the thing that really gets me is like, actually doesn't get me. I'm being dramatic here, but these people think that they can just ignore what the people who are giving them the consent. This is how revolution is breeded. This is how conflict happens. You're going to get up there and tell me to simmer down?
Yeah.
No, I got to work in these conditions.
What's even worse is the fire chief. I can't remember her name right now. She's never been a firefighter. In fact, she's just been a political lobbyist. But she's now trying to track down those that booed them, and she's going to re-educate them. So you can't speak against.
Guys, this is not leadership. That's the thing too. In this is
not leadership. It's just like one step away from communism.
Yeah. So
who's going to want to go work for the city government if you're going to remove all my free speech? Well, only people who align with you.
And it doesn't matter. And even if I do exercise it, you don't care. That's a whole different layer to the relationship too, right? So let's go into the next clip of these Fantastic Four clips here.
So this one, real quick, this one is anybody who's been alive in the last 4 years. Obviously, there was some sad feelings about Trump not getting reelected. And so there's been sentiments about, the election was rigged. I don't really know one way or the other, but the narrative has been like, shut up. You can't believe you would say that the system's rigged, blase, 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 whatever it might be. But they have such short-term memory because when Trump won the first time, here's what they were on.
That's the real
what I'm
thing.
scared about in 2020.
But rightly.
Because I think he's an illegitimate president that didn't really win. So how do you fight against that in 2020?
You are absolutely right.
He's an illegitimate president in my mind.
Would you be my vice presidential candidate? Folks, look, I absolutely agree.
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president.
The president or elect, although legally elected, is not legitimate.
I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
You said you believe that Russia's interference altered the outcome of the election.
I do. We have a president who, if in fact it is proven, has been assisted by the Russians and may in fact not be a legitimate president.
The one thing that Trump is fearful
my favorite.
When it comes to his being president is that finally we will see how illegitimate his victory actually was.
I have an objection.
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina.
I object because people are horrified.
He's an illegitimate president.
Do you believe Trump is a legitimate president?
What I believe is that there's no question that the outcome of this election was affected by the Russian interference.
There absolutely is a cloud of illegitimacy.
So that legitimacy is in question, yes.
So that was a very tainted election. And in that sense, it's illegitimate.
Why do you think the president is going to such great lengths to essentially...
Okay, we get the point.
We get the point.
The point being that the only thing you ever hear coming out of the mainstream media, which is controlled by these same people, is whatever's opposite of the other party. So if Trump wins, it's illegitimate. If conservatives say that the last election was rigged, it's like, oh, they're conspiracy theorists. That would never happen. But it's very clear that banks, governments, and major companies, Facebook,
media,
Amazon, Twitter, etc., are all controlled by the same party. And so it's just funny. Like you guys have to start. If you're listening to our podcast, you probably align with this. If you don't, and you listen to this crap,
got some things to consider.
You got some things to consider, but like we need to do a better job as citizens of being informed, and we need to actually do the research, go back in history. I know everybody's so afraid to go back in history. We want to delete most of history, but the truth is these things have repeated themselves over and over and over and over again. And so do your own freaking research.
Dude, you do your own research. And then the truth is that I mean, honestly, I think there's just a silent majority, right? That doesn't have the tech leverage, doesn't have the media leverage, right? The financial institution leverage. Hence, there's more of us than it is of them.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's that saying that says, "Do you hate me because you think I hate you?" Right? And so, a lot of what is pushed out there by we'll call it the minority is to create the gap or the rift between the parties or the values.
Yeah, and it just seems like this is what everyone feels. But the truth is that I know people just now that I would say their voting record is largely Democrat, that over the last couple of years, we've had conversations and they've had to say, dude, we didn't agree, but we're more aligned than we ever were in light of the things that I'm seeing, because the American people, a lot of us, a majority of us still have common sense. And if you say to me, oh, the president is illegitimate, you say it for 3 years, almost 4 years, and then you turn around and say, you don't get to say it. Immediately my red flags go up. Like, dude, wait a minute. Like,
well, it's also going back to what we talked about at the beginning of the pod, but we're coming back to a time more similar to what it was like pre-World War II. This idea of what's better for the whole versus the individual. This America first mentality is rising, and we can agree on that, no matter what side of the aisle you sit on. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or you're a liberal. If you're a career politician, I don't like you.
Because I got to question whether or not you actually understand what public service is. I got to question that. And my last point that I wanted to make sure I stress to our listeners is like the founders understood this in our charter documents. And I'm really just considering in my own personal lives, ways that I can, my own personal life, the ways that I can be of service in the local and state capacity. Obviously, we're doing it through the work we do here, but even in the actual domain of public service, local government, whether it's maybe you're not running for office, but maybe you need to volunteer for election night stuff. Maybe you need to do certain things with the school board, being involved. It's just this notion of we're just so disconnected from what's happening in our own backyards. And at the same time, we can see by way of decentralized media, as you've been talking about, we can see the veiled, or just really, we can see that the emperor has no clothes.
Yes.
But if we're not involved, and they've been involved, people who don't care for liberty have been involved in every which way possible from local, state, and federal. It doesn't matter how much clarity and truth go forth. The only way you're going to get there and get it back is actually through conflict. And so if you want to avoid conflict, you want to avoid the things we talk about, we have to take our own initiative in our communities and on a state level. And it'll trickle up to a federal.
Correct. I think we should just end on that. Yeah.
Fact. Well, we should almost. Have you seen this clip?
All right.
This Robert De Niro. Like, look at guys as we wrap. This is going to be our closing clip. Listen to the words of this man. He's saying this with conviction.
Nothing at all. Nothing redeemable in him. And we have to. And whoever the people are who want to vote for him, and there look like intelligent people around there. Somebody, for some reason. It can't be. It cannot be. If he wins the election, you won't be on the show anymore. He'll come looking for me. There'll be things that happen that none of us can imagine. That's what happens in that kind of a dictatorship, which is what he says. Let's believe him. Take him at his word.
I did from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I said from the very beginning, this guy is never going to concede power, and he still hasn't.
No.
He still hasn't. He just admitted he lost the last election, and he advertises that he will go on. He says he's been cheated out of one term, so maybe we should get rid of a president only gets 2 terms thing.
Nothing at all.
Okay.
Nothing.
So
first off, dude, I hate political people. They're so slimy.
Yep.
The one thing I at least respect about Trump is he'll tell you exactly what is on his mind.
Cricket Joe.
There's no like gray area for that dude. These guys will just piss down your back and tell you it's rain. Oh, it doesn't feel good. It's warm rain.
I just submit to you guys at closing. Like, think about he will be a dictator. He will remove Bill Maher. He will come after Robert De Niro. He is going to never leave power. He was just voted out technically. He is going to be the king of the United States, is what they are saying. And he has desires to be so. Look at your own, through your own eyes. Forget what, that is the challenge that's what we submit to you. Before this is believed, you may not be a conservative entrepreneur. You may be a Democrat. You may be liberal. You may be independent and moderate, but enough is enough. These people can't continue to just say these things. And then we're just like not thinking about it. And we're wondering like why our country is crumbling.
That's like the antithesis of what Trump wants to do. He wants to open up the free market.
Even if he wanted to, that's the point. Even if he wanted to, he couldn't do it.
Because he doesn't control the media like they do.
He doesn't control the media. And you cannot in the United States ascend to the position of being a monarch. We came from that. You're not going to get it. You can't be a dictator in our current way unless you have a citizenry that's largely ignorant and you start changing laws and doing all that. Do you know how many steps you have to take to be in a position to be a dictator?
They act like he has like carte blanche to just do whatever he wants.
Right. Everyone who is sworn an oath to defend the Constitution is just going to lay down if a man says, I'm ascending to the rank of dictator and permanent president in chief and everything else. And they're just going to, no. And the law doesn't even allow that.